Tell me about some of the wins that you're savoring.
Real estate this year was good to me. It's my first full year, and I was like, girl, if you do like 2, 3 transactions, that'll feel good. It means that like you're learning, you help 2, 3 people, and then I surpassed that by a lot. Um, and so that's something that I'm savoring, and I'm sitting in that for a minute. Um, I I feel like, when you feel like you've done the work and you finally feel like right now, I feel like I am the best version of myself that I've ever been. I feel good about what I'm putting out there, about who I am. And I think that's the biggest victory of all, is that kind of like, I don't want to say self-actualization, because like that sounds so gravitas, but to see the work, the therapy, the all of it, the like the failures being worth something. I feel like right now I just feel like the best version of myself, and so people are getting the best version of me. And dare I say that that's the sweetest victory that I've had this year, coming to the end of the year and being like, yeah, like I really fucking love myself right now. COVID happened and that job kind of became obsolete. And it was a moment of kind of figuring out what's next, and then realizing that as a flight attendant, you live in a bubble. Nobody really understands your job per se. So when it comes to trying to enter a corporate environment, no one gets what you can bring to the table. So to me, it was, what are things that I can have that are tangible, real things that can't be taken away from me as I kind of try to climb my own ambitions and build something for myself. And so pen to paper, sat down, what are you good at? And real estate is about people, and I'm good with people. And it was a pivot. When you're working in real estate, you're working with people at their most vulnerable. You're working with people in a moment where they have probably saved up X amount. And when I say saved up, I mean like, we're taking money from here and we're taking money from there. And this is like, it's their dreams, it's their goals, it's their aspirations of what could possibly be. And so for me, the bottom line is, in this business, and what I knew that I could bring to it was, dare I say, vulnerability in understanding that journey, and understanding that in that moment people are trusting you, and it's a raw form of showing up for someone. So each client for me is memorable, but each client in that moment is, I understand exactly what their purpose was in purchasing or selling their home. So for me, at the core, real estate is about people. The concept of getting an inheritance was like what I had seen in movies. And I always say that, to me, it's that moment of like, oh, we got money. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what an inheritance is in my mind, in like what I've seen. But in that moment, it was a lot of guilt, and it was a lot of, dare I say, the Dave Chappelle skit of when Negroes get reparations and they all go out and buy big screen TVs. That was a real thought that went through my head of, don't mess this up, don't mess this up. But you also don't know what you don't know. So as I navigate my own financial literacy and lack thereof, and I go into real estate, I understand that this is a real thing that people are going through, that if you grow up in an environment like I did with a single mom that we don't necessarily talk about money, it makes an impact in your adult life. And in real estate, you kind of get to see the people that know and how they maneuver money and how they build wealth versus the people that are catching up and versus the people that may never attain because they just don't know how to start. And so when I work with people, something that's always really important to me is making sure that by the end of the transaction, they feel like they've learned something, they feel empowered, and knowledge is always a part of the journey. Okay, so I read this book years ago. It was called Freakonomics. It's a series. It's really good. And it kind of breaks down how the economy is built on us, on people, on how we maneuver, on the choices that we make. That is how we shape economies. Dare I say that some things are done in a certain way where if you don't have the knowledge, how do you move the economy in a certain way? And I feel like I'm trying to like mince my words so bad right now. But dare I say that sometimes it feels purposeful. It feels like certain communities weren't meant to have access to certain information. Everyone is talking at you and not to you. And it becomes more and more difficult, to be honest and say, I don't know what the benefit of an RRSP is, or I don't quite understand what an interest rate and how that impacts my mortgage. And the more that becomes your reality, I guess the more that you kind of rely on everyone else, you don't understand the vernacular, and then it's kind of you're missing out on such an important part of how we maneuver, how the world maneuvers, how our capitalist tendencies maneuver. If you don't understand money, you're missing out on an important part of the conversation that benefits you as an individual. It is a real thing that I've never sat down and thought about how it impacts me, but it is a real thing to look around a room and see no one that looks like you. And then have to, again, going back to that OG Caribbean mentality of show up, work twice as hard. I think I know that real estate has definitely put that in the forefront of my mind more so than I've ever contemplated it before. I know that the typical answer would be like, I go to the gym, but I don't. I go to school. School on paper gives me credibility and empowers me. And that's powerful for my mental health. Because it's something that it can't be taken away from me. And it goes back to the idea of when I walk into rooms where I'm the only one that looks like me, you can't take away why I'm there. You can't take that away from me. It goes back to paying your dues. And so school always makes me feel dare I say, when I'm in the midst of it, I'm like, why did I do this to myself? But school makes me feel fucking like I'm winning. And that's really empowering for my mental health. I think that she did me a favor by talking to me that way. I think that I didn't get like the whole, you're pretty, you can do anything you want to do, or you can be anything you want to be. It was, you can be anything you want to be, but you have to work. And I think she did me a service by talking to me in that way. I think it gave me, going into the real world, it gave me a proper understanding of nothing is free. You need to work for what you want. And you need to pay your dues. So, no, I think that it set me up for a better understanding of how the real world operates, and not having anything taken pour acquis. Like, it's not yours until it's yours. It's not yours until you work for it. And even then, someone can take it away from you like that. So yes, you need to come correct all the time. If I were to say, hey, I'm adaptable, it sounds so great. But to say, hey, I'm a very good code switcher, doesn't mean that I'm silencing a part of myself. And that's a real thought. And then it's a thought that then just pisses me off, because I feel like only people that look like me or other minorities even need to have to contemplate this. And yeah, I think that that's also part of it that sort of makes me feel a ways. This has definitely been an exercise in learning to let go and in bringing one's authentic self to the table, which one could argue, and that even I would argue, that I do that every day. But this experience pushed me to, are you really? Like, am I really being my authentic self every day? And I'm grateful for the conversation and the opportunity, and to sort of perhaps leave with a better way to show up for myself on the daily. So yeah, that would be my, I don't know, my lessons learned and my takeaway from this is, yeah, you're really showing up in your most authentic self. And then a part of me would say, is the world a safe space for us to all show up every day in our most authentic self? But this definitely was that.